Hey guys, today we've got a Rogue Armor. This is a 383. This coach trailer comes with two air conditioners, one in the front, one in the rear, and it comes with a pre-wire on the inside. So today we're going to be adding a secondary air conditioner. We'll show you when we get to that. It's a Coleman unit. Because this is in the ceiling, come on in. Alright, so this unit does come pre-wired from the factory, so it says. We're going to double check all that. Does not have a thermostat, so in this situation we're using Coleman's lower control assembly that has Bluetooth. So the customer will be able to just adjust everything on his phone. He won't need a thermostat down here or to wire in a thermostat, and it won't be the ceiling controls that he would need a ladder to try to reach up to. So we're gonna get this exposed to see what the factory has done. Hopefully there is some some pre-work was done in there and it's already framed in, that we're just gonna have to route out the hole, punch the hole through the roof, and then mount the unit. But you guys will come along with this ride as we figure it out. So we're gonna grab some tools and get started. All right, so we're gonna get this cover plate off. Let's see what we can see. All right, so we do have a little mess. We do have 110 wires in here. Let's see if we can get the box off. Alright, so it feels like we've got board here, board there, and one there. So it appears this is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to go grab the router. We're going to make a giant mess in here, and we'll get the ceiling opened up, and we'll go from there. So let me go grab the router. Alright, so for this, we've got a DeWalt bit, and I've got a pattern bit, or whatever you want to call it. It's got a bearing that'll slide across there. We do have some cables up here that we're going to have to kind of, let's see, where's the safest spot? So we'll start by just opening the hole up, and then we'll... Alright, so everything looks good. I'm going to keep a little pressure on the ceiling and here's all right. So like I said, gonna make a mess. But we got our AC hole opened. That was the easier part of this. I did hit a wire, so we'll have to take care of that. Let's see. So we got our AC wires. And, well, actually it appears there is a pre-wired thermostat, and they've got so this is a 12-volt supply to this. So I'm going to assume somewhere over there behind the thermostats is either another thermostat wire where you could add a multi-zone, or you have to add a whole nother thermostat. We're not going to use this in this system because we got the Bluetooth one. All we should need is our 110 wires here, but we'll double check. So the next step in this is going to be to drill a hole in each one of these corners, and that'll put us up onto the roof. Then we'll go on the roof and we'll cut the same square up on the roof, and set the AC on top of it. So I'm gonna clean up and we'll keep going.
Now that we got this hole cut, it's time to locate so that when we go up on the roof, we know exactly where we're going to be cutting out. So by doing that, I'm going to take this drill bit and go into each corner, and that'll give us a good idea of where this hole is. All right, now let's take you up to the roof.
All right, so we're up here on our roof. We can see our 4+1 holes. So we're going to cut the membrane out of the way so that we can again use the router. And we also had to get a little bit bigger hole so that the router bit will fit through. So grab our straight edge here. Always be careful when you're up on the roof with knives, you know. Don't want to poke a hole. This is a TPO style roof, so you can see how thin the membrane is. Chuck that down to the ground. Get us a little bit bigger hole here. So I like to double check real quick and make sure our settings on the router are okay. We're going to drop this down a little bit deeper so that the bearing slides better on this board. Alright, so there's our hole. Of course, when you do this like you saw me, make sure you grab a hold of it. You don't want that dropping down there, putting a hole in your floor or anything like that. So you can look down and see right to the inside. We got our cables here. They did go ahead and frame all this in, so we're going to clean this mess up, and then we're going to get ready to get the air conditioner on the roof. We'll basically set it in position. We'll have somebody down below to line it up. We'll get it situated over the hole, and then that'll be the last thing we actually have to do on the roof. Then everything else will be down below. All right, so there's no great way to do this. Just do this as safely as possible. We're going to use the ladder.
Raleigh, how do you plan on getting that up here?
I'm gonna throw it up there.
Just do this as safely as possible. We're going to use the ladder and slide it up the ladder. But there's no great way to do this. Get the AC on the roof as safe as you can. Use as many people as you can. And good luck to that. Just be safe. All right, you gotta get it past where the ladder. All right, you're gonna hit a lip again. Right here. You gotta get Hold on, go back down. Let's do the platform.
Yeah.
I think we take it back down.
Explain.
All right, so we're gonna try to use our platform because this is a really tall fifth wheel. It's just gonna be hard, but I think if we get it on the platform, we're tall enough, we'll be able to slide it onto the roof. We've got a blanket here. We're gonna throw the blanket down over the roof so we don't scratch the roof with that wood pallet. So. All right, so that way it was safer, definitely. Unfortunately, a lot of you aren't gonna have a mobile scaffold like that. So whatever you gotta create or park it next to a house or something like that. I'm gonna blow off the hole here. Watch your face. All right, so they're all gonna come with this. Make sure you keep your warranty card. It's got the serial number and everything for the unit. We'll drop that down inside. And now we'll flip this thing around. Now what we're going to do is get this nice hole right over that hole. All right, how's that look, Riley? Is that good?
Back it up a little bit.
Do what?
Back it up this way a little bit.
Which way? Back?
There.
Good? All right, so we got this lined up. It's hot today. It's always hot up on the roof. We'll get everything cleaned up here because like I said, we're done on the roof. You can see this unit pretty much matches the other two Colemans. So aesthetically it'll look nice, but let's get this thing hooked up and turned on so we can enjoy some cold air. All right, so here's our lower control assembly from Coleman. I'll talk about that a little more, or why I'm opening it. I'll kind of give you guys a little more information and understanding. All right, so a quick explanation of what I do want to explain about when you guys decide to add an air conditioner. This one is using Coleman's. The way it is wired, you could put any type of non-ducted assembly in here. The difference is going to be Coleman and Dometic, which are your two major, we'll say, competitors. You do also have Furrion and Advent make air conditioners. They all wire their stuff differently and require a little bit different type of wiring. For instance, this has the 12 volt in the ceiling. That's because on most Coleman style units, the 12 volt power comes from up at the air conditioner, whereas Dometic on most of theirs, the 12 volt goes to the thermostat, and the thermostat provides the 12 volt power. In these situations, the 12 volt power is used to control the relays in here to turn the compressor on and off. So there are a few things that will make a difference, especially if you wanted to get a dual zone thermostat and have this with the thermostat. Now that we know it's there, you would have to get a Coleman unit because they wire the same, and you can't use a Coleman thermostat to control a Dometic or any other brand. Alright, so we've got the control box. This is going to mount up inside the AC unit, the rooftop unit. It goes in with some wing nuts, and all the wiring is going to attach here. This is your little air plenum. What this is going to do is go over top of the return air, your cold air, and make sure that all the air that's coming from the return or from the unit that's cold gets connected and blows right out here. You don't have any loss. Some of the other models have a little divider wall that separates the return air from your supply air from your return air. But in this one, that's what they're using to do that. This is our actual mounting flange. This will go on basically first, and in the corners there'll be 4 big giant bolts, and that is actually what compresses. So these 4 big bolts here are what is going to actually compress the rooftop unit down onto, well, what holds it in. This basically makes a giant clamp. As you're going to see here in a second, these will screw up and it'll compress the seal and everything on the rooftop unit, and then you have a nice tight watertight seal. So in the kit, looks like we've got our adapters that are going to actually connect here in the back of the control, the sealing assembly, and that'll connect into parts of this, and then all these little different color connectors are going to connect onto all the pins across here. So let's get started. First things first, we're going to want to get the unit actually mounted down to the roof. This is our 4 giant long bolts. They use a, let's see if I got it in my pocket. Nope, I don't. So this one looks like they're going to use a maybe 3/8. So I'm going to go grab a 3/8 adapter for the drill so we can spin these down a little quicker, and I'll be right back. Alright, so it was actually a 5/16 is what these bolts are. This sealing piece is not directional. It can go any way. Power tools are good. They're going to make part of this easier. You still want to have a ratchet to tighten it down by hand. You over tighten this and strip it out, it's going to be a nightmare because these are rib nuts, which is a captive type bolt that's put in. And if you strip it out, you're going to have to take the unit off the roof, and it's going to be a really fun process. So we'll throw everything here in the middle. You want to start all these by hand to ensure you do not cross thread them. And on some of these you might have to kind of grab a hold of the upper unit, catch it back down, because until it's actually secured it does rock backwards. Alright. Run these up a little bit. Just to get them. Alright, so if you did this right, this assembly should be sitting nice and flat against the ceiling. Now we'll snug these down with the drill. Alright, like I said, starting with the drill, now you're going to want to finish with the ratchet. You can also look up here, make sure you see it. You can watch the foam kind of compress down. You're not trying to crush the foam, you're just trying to get a good solid seal. And if you don't do this right, this is where you will get a leak when the air conditioner is running. running because that foam seal around the hole is all it does. All that keeps this from leaking in. Alright, that part's done. Let's grab our next piece. A side safety note to that, and Will can show it if he wants in a minute. Down below is our 110 volt breaker box. We have ensured that the breaker is off for this. Double check that before you start. We did, but I didn't talk about that, so I'm going to talk about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and chop this box off, get some of this stuff out of our way. Even though I know it's off, I still don't like to chop through more than one conductor wire at a time. Alright, so I'm just trying to get everything open here and take a look at what we're going to need to finish getting everything wired up. This is kind of our wiring adapter. It's going to go down to that. This is your freeze plug. This is a key item to put in. That will prevent the unit from freezing up. So, to get the 110 connected here, it's going to go into this hole, but we actually have to take the cover off. So once it pops off, there's all the inner workings of this. This is what we're looking for right here. Our 110 is going to go through here. It does come with a little protective grommet. You're going to want to stick that on so that the wire does not get chafed across there. While we're here, we'll go ahead and hook up the rest of our wires. We've got, well, probably going to have to look at the color coding because they're not quite labeled. So freeze is labeled. We'll start there. These last two are labeled freeze. So that's where the freeze plug is going to go in.
Might be labeled on that back sticker. Oh, no, on the cover you took off.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
So show me that.
Alright, so right here is our color coding. So if you look, it's there. So RT is going to be the red, which is this one, and your RT is this bar connection by itself. B minus is blue, which is your negative, 12 volt negative. GL is gray, that's your low fan speed control. So, and also by doing this yourself, if you ever have an issue where something doesn't work, you can go to these wires and see if you've got a loose connection. GH is green, which is your high speed fan. And Y, who'd have thought, is yellow. Alright, so we've got all these. We'll double check the factory connections, make sure everything's nice and solid in here. We got our freeze plug. We'll set our cover here on the ladder. It comes with 3 wire nuts. We'll set those on the ladder. We need our Phillips head. We need some wire strippers so that we can strip that 110 wire back. And then the other thing you're going to need before you climb up on the ladder will be these 2 little weird looking connectors. What these actually are is it's kind of like a speed bolt. This unit, like I said before, is going to go up into the ceiling assembly on two lugs, and then once it's in there, you just squeeze these together and then it'll push all the way down in. It does unthread and can thread, but with this you just push it and it shoots it in. I'm going to double check. Everybody's going to say, what about the other wire? This wire should be for the heat strip, but I'm going to double check that here in just a minute. So, do know, as we're talking about all this, this wire I cut off as little as I could. Has to be able to reach up into the assembly up in here. So, if you find that it's not long enough, then you're going to have to do something different and make a junction. Now what we've got up here, Will can get it. This is the actual, what connects to the control box from the upper assembly. This is the only connection that connects the inside to the outside. Is this officially a 9-pin connector? It doesn't use all of them, but so we'll get these stripped back. Same deal. I know some people are going to be like, well, there's the covering is off of the Romex. Well, it is, and I didn't strip that off. Ideally, you don't want to have your individual wires here exposed like that, but you can't control what the factory does and how they did it, and unless you want to go in and try to put a junction box behind the ceiling to add wire, this you're kind of you're left to do what you can, do the best you can do. Actually, all right. So I'm going to go grab a couple things real quick just to make this a little bit better and to keep everybody from complaining in the comments that they don't like that. So there's two things I don't like to do in campers. I'll call my pet peeves. One is use household wire nuts because everybody else does electrical tape. I've got crimp-on ones. I'm going to go get those and we're going to put a crimp-on wire nuts. And I've got some heat shrink. We'll heat shrink the exposed wire here so it's protected. So I'll be right back. Alright, so to appease everyone, I got two options here. You can use a simple crimp-on wire nut, or if you're fancy and you've ordered them off of Amazon or somewhere, you can use the Wagos. That is actually what the factory left covering it. So either one of those will work. Get this heat shrink on real quick. Much. All right, now our wire's protected. Let's get them connected. Okay, so black to black, white to white, crown to crown. So I'm still a fan of the crimp-on wires. Well, actually, we'll play the game. We'll use some Wagos. So stick our first end in. We'll get our other one on. Always double check your connection that's good and tight. Get our ground connected. Alright, now just get them all carefully tucked in. That's usually its own. This is going to be the hardest part. Alright, we got them all in there. Get our cover back on. Got our screws up here. Oh wow, it fell through the hole. Alright, so that's our control box connected. Now we got to get it up in. We'll get all of our wires set here. If you want, you can go ahead and connect your upper assembly. And now we're going to finagle this into the hole. There's the one. And there's the second one. Now we take those speed nuts that I was talking about. Give them some twists. Okay, so that's up in there. You got your light wheel?
Yeah.
See if I can put a little light on it so you guys can kind of see how that sits up in there. So they connect on either side. And now Coleman does not leave a spot. But now what you're going to do is take this freeze plug and come up in the middle of the condenser and just carefully push it in. So you're definitely not going to be able to see it from that angle, but it just goes in between the fins right in, and that's going to measure the temperature. So let's cut our other wires here out of the way, because we're not going to use these. And I'll just pull that screw up. So what we'll do is twist these up, stick them out of the way. We'll kind of hide them behind the corners here. Well, actually, there's probably enough. There's a big enough hole here. We can feed it back in. Just have it just barely sticking out. Again, this is just a thermostat wire, so it's not live or anything like that. It can do anything. This 12-volt wire, I'm going to assume probably has another fuse that it goes to. But we will go ahead and feed some of it back in and then cut it off. Last thing, if you want to be nitpicky or make this as efficient as possible, you can get some duct tape, and not like the duct tape, duct tape, and we can cover up these holes. This is your return air. This is where all your warm air gets sucked up right here. If you don't cover these holes, I mean, you can see my finger can fit through there. Then it's going to start sucking hot air literally out of the roof, which is going to make this less efficient. So I'm going to grab some tape. All right, so we did a little more reading, and this little piece that I thought was for the for a heat strip is actually the temperature probe for this. So it says there's supposed to be another screw hole up here that it mounts in and then sits where the air is. However, I'm not seeing that. So I'm gonna look through the directions really quick again and see if I could, well, while we're here. All right, so this is the kind of foil tape we're talking about for duct stuff. You peel the back off and it's sticky. So we're gonna just tape up these holes and tape these two wires down so that they're not in the way grabbing dirt or anything like that. But in the future, if you wanted to change something, so there is potentially a 12-volt wire here. If you wanted to add some kind of extra light, we'd have to figure out if it was switched or not switched. But there is potential that there's a wire up here that you could take advantage of. And we'll just set these to the side. Tape over the hole and the wires. Alright, I'll show you guys again real quick what this looks like. So we've got these holes covered up, so we're not going to be sucking air out of the attic. Equivocally, what's the attic in a trailer? And we've got the wires here if you ever needed them. So I'm going to figure out really quickly where this sensor is supposed to go. Unless let's see. Well, there is the spot there, so let's look. Okay, so this is your return air. All your nice, fresh, cold air. This is gonna screw in up here. Actually screws in on the inside. And then that's gonna connect into our ceiling assembly so that all the cold air goes straight back down and your hot, warm air gets sucked up and they don't mix. Alright, so we figured out where the room sensor goes. It's actually going to connect up to the clamping ring and measures the warm air coming back in, which is equivocally the temperature of the room. But we've got to take the ceiling assembly apart here to get to the rest of the mounting holes. I feel like we're going to break something. Take it apart. Maybe I was wrong. Yep, so. Incorrect. You didn't actually have to take the vents out, but now you learn how to take the vents out. So, this is our next piece that's going to mount up in here. And that's going to take 4 of these tiny screws it came with. So, where this actually wants it to be mounted, so this is going to sit up here like this. Our wire is going to come down and connect in here. So we'll start with this. This has 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. These line up with 3 holes in the actual rooftop unit. Alright, if you were installing this on a different part of the ceiling or in different campers, the ceiling height is, the thickness of the ceiling is different. You'd be able to adjust this. We're almost at the kind of furthest reach of what this, with the bolts and everything, can handle. Most campers are kind of lacking in actual ceiling thickness and insulation, so that's why. Alright, that part's in. Now, according to our directions, it wants this to be installed right here on another one of these pre-done holes. Drill power. Alright, that's going to go there. That's going to come out. We'll grab 4 more screws. And get this mounted up. Here's all your serial numbers again for your lower control assembly. Hopefully you can figure out which way this goes. This is going to come down through here. So get it kind of situated. Get our connectors dropped down and line our holes up. And the last one. Alright, so make sure we got both of these coming down. And now we'll do our return air. So this has got double-sided tape on it. I'm going to peel off the back. I got it. There it goes. And then just carefully pull down, stick it. Work your way around. And there's our return in. Now you can take a knife and trim this back. And there we go. Now, last step. Gonna need our last 4 screws. I'll have to grab that one on the ground. We'll grab our ceiling assembly. So, we actually did, of course, need to take those off for the finish. The last 4 screws are going to go in each corner, which would have been under the vent. So, get her hooked up. Plugs only go one way. And then you're going to gonna stick your excess back into the hole here. Get that lined up. Looks like our holes are lining up good with the screws. There's one. Alright, so it is always problematic to get this end in where this ceiling transition is because it wants to bend the ceiling assembly, make it more difficult to attach. So I might have to kind of loosen one end and fight with it a little bit to get it to go. Looks like we're lined up. There we go. Alright, we'll open our vents up and I'm going to grab our filters and cover. It's a good maintenance tip. Make sure you're cleaning these filters. If you're actively using the camper a lot, at least once a month. That will really help the longevity of your unit. Alright, I'm going to flip the power on. You guys watch the screen and we'll see what. And there we go. So that's fan. Now we can go to fan. That was fan high. Now we'll go to fan low. And we'll cycle her to, that's go to auto cool, and it's set at 74, so it'll kind of cycle itself off. Actually, yep, so it's set on 74 and now it's telling us the temperature 73, so we'll drop it down a few degrees. Oh, it actually was set higher now. So we'll set her down here to 70. And it should take a few seconds. I don't have the app downloaded, so I'm not going to get into that. You guys, I'm sure, are all tech savvy enough to figure out how to use an app. But all the app and directions will be in the manual, and you can download that, and that'll get you set up. Let's see. Cool. Let's try that. Alright, so what happened there is the auto mode is actually where it'll switch from hot to cold, from heat to air conditioning. This unit does not have any heat. You can add the Coleman heat strip to make that work, but so it would need to just be set straight on cool. I'm not going to keep it running so you can actually hear me real quick. Kick her back to off. And that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. If you're local or nearby, you're going to visit Myrtle Beach, as you've seen here, it's definitely something we could take care of and get you set up. Most of these things are in stock currently. There are other options now that we know the wiring is there. If you wanted to do a thermostat, you'd have to change out the thermostat. But so the options are there and available to you. If you guys have any questions, again, you can give us a call. 843-999-6607 is my number. We'll throw it in the video down at the bottom. And we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.